I hope your coffee is warm because today we are driving into Aetherdrift's cruise. As Pravishkar's engines purr and the air crackles with ether, our guys are getting ready for the Grand Prix. 10 crews of Ravnican colors, each with their own vision of what victory means. Some seek home, some seek chaos, and others simply seek speed for speed's sake. Actually, only 2 teams really just want to win. The Guidelight Voyagers, for example, move as one to find home. The Aether Rangers reshape their machines in real time, adapting as fast as the race itself, and find joy mostly in that. And the Endriders burn through everything in their path, while the Keelhaulers plunder their way to the front, but probably don't care about being in front. In this world, vehicles are more than machines. They are lifelines, weapons, even extensions of the soul. The race has already begun, so the only question is who will reach the finish line first. Ready, set, go. The Guidelight Voyagers are up first. They are guided by a single mind, the Mendicant Core. Their purpose is to return to their homeworld. Their main mechanic is to work well together, which is logical as they have one mind. Affinity for artifacts tells us that there are robots here that love helping each other out. The better chance they have at finding home, the better their happiness explodes. Another thing that's fun about them is that they talk like robot humans, like firm imperative, let's go. We learn more about the mind of the Voyagers through Memory Guardian. This is a flying robot meant to recover broken robots. The name suggests that the Voyagers can use its memories to upload it to their one mind. Perhaps then the Mendicant Core can always communicate with the robots, but their memories have to be manually uploaded to the core. And the Voyagers don't care about their individuals too much as their one mind. This is the white identity of Azorius. We are shown this through the diversion unit sacrificing itself to catch a fireball and mechanically countering an instant or sorcery by sacrificing itself in-game. Still, they wouldn't unnecessarily sacrifice another robot if one can be saved. Even though it might be glitchy, they will still try to keep it around. In this way they make sure that they have enough parts to go around at all times. Whether they do so for parts or because they're actually rather human like Salvation Engine's flavor suggests is still unsure. Judging from the glide car, the robots can have fun, so that means that they must be at least pretty human. The upper robot is holding its arms out, even though another said, exclamatory, hang on to something, as if it wanted the thrill of gliding around. While I'm not sure whether the robots can fuse together with their vehicles, I do know that they do feel for their cars. They're just another hardware to upgrade, and the Voyagers would view their cars as another part of their one mind for that. As a true Azorius faction, they used predictable, reliable strategies in the first race, and now they've revised their plan, upgrading it, attempting slightly more unpredictable methods, because the first time they didn't win. This is perfectly illustrated through the Guidelight optimizer, who does say exclamatory punch it, still is checking whether the stress is within the expected tolerances, as they state that they do operate at 125% efficiency. So they're going faster than they can, but not by much. But winning isn't all the Voyagers strive to be. They're looking for ways to find pathways towards their home plane along the way. And this is why we're seeing here the first team that really doesn't care about winning, they just care about finding things along their ways. Avishkar's own crew are the blue and green Aether Rangers. They were brought together after Kaladesh became Avishkar, because Avishkar as a new nation needed to show its worth to the multiverse, or it felt the need to. And on a plane with investors, what's more fitting than a racing team with vehicles that alter with every race, every lap even. Because like Repurposing Bay states, by the end of the race, few of the Aether Rangers' vehicles resembled what they started as. If there's a way to make Simic into a vehicle color, it's by using this card. The Aether Rangers are led by Piana Lar as their strategist. The Rangers take with them all they've learned from the rebellion, like using the resources from the consulate for their races. Now the Thopters can be great scouts for them. The team uses light and agile vehicles to get around so that they can easily adjust them to what they need later. Just like any rebel army wouldn't want to get too populated, so that they can hide under the radar and shift positions in need. Spitfire is the main driver for the Aether Rangers. As you see in her art, she has the ability to move at incredible speed for a few seconds at a time by using her suit. It then can't be used for a while, much like the exhaust ability. On the card, the ability grows Sita with +1 counters and then boosts her team too. Even though Sita doesn't really help her allies at all in the story, this ability could help her react faster while crewing a vehicle, so it could be flavorful. Sita or Spitfire needs to be masked, because of her father, a respected engineer and an important member of the conservative consulate. Sita's father would never approve of her entering a race in the name of Avishkar, so this made Sita into Spitfire, and it made her hide from her father and made her actually want to win the race to be away from her father. The Rangers' mechanic is that they benefit from exhaust abilities, like Sita's, because Aether is expanded and that Aether can then be used to power more Thopters. That's what I at least think is happening here. The previous winners of the GP were the Cloudspire Racing team with Boros colors. You can see from their lance art that they strive to live dangerously as long as it gets them ahead. This is much like Kylem, to be competitively focused on sports and games. Note the blue energy lines in the art because they're really a theme here. Because while the Velocitar and the Paragon show that breakneck speeds are still a Boros or Cloudspire thing, there's more to this team than a Minotaur that gives power, trample and hedonism, or a Pacesetter that loses his fast double strike after a turn because he was exhausted after. For one very Boros aspect, the Cloudspire team is all about showing off and showing hope. That's why the Boros on Ravnica love the sun, and the Cloudspire team loves to show off their slick racing lines with blue magic. It's all about the appearance that provides hope and high hearts in their watchers. In fact, if the kickoff celebrations were good enough, you'll start your race at max speed by giving your vehicles and creatures haste. That's why they enlisted Chandra too. They wanted the Paragon of Hope in their team. That would get the Pravishkar fans on their side. And Chandra chose the team because it was likely to win again this year, and she really wanted the spark to give it to Nissa, because she has really been missing planeswalking all around. And isn't that very Boros or Cloudspire? Gifting your loved one something and fighting for it? Or protecting them like we see in Light Wheel enhancements, where the blue racing line protects you from what's behind you, in this case an incoming explosion. That's why this guy gives you vigilance, because you can watch your back, and the Cloudspires can even use their racing lines to fly into the air on new lines, like racers that don't adhere to the optimal racing lines. The Cloudspires blaze new paths too. So basically what Chandra and the Cloudspires are saying is that as long as you're faster than what's dangerous, and you're in front of what's dangerous, you'll actually never be in danger. So you could say blue racing lines are off color, but their flavor definitely isn't. Chandra co-captains with Kolodin. Kolodin was the last year's winning captain and apparently uses winning magic. He does represent this team very well with giving vehicles and mounts haste and enabling the steeds, metal or otherwise, to attack immediately as if saddled or crewed. When you think about it, Boros is all about attacking and winning together. Like Kolodin says, we win together or not at all. And in order to do this, you will need to have your vehicles attack on their own, while your pilots can attack with them, because you don't need to crew their vehicles. In the art we even see Kolodin ready to jump into action himself, trusting his vehicle to catch up with him later. So it's definitely about the synergy between vehicles and their riders. In fact, look at this art. The Cloudspire team wants every pilot and vehicle to get involved. Some just need one wheel or a steering wheel or a chassis, and will use this energy to keep them moving forwards at breakneck speeds. The vehicle itself could even be crewed by another vehicle once. The Cloudspire team is really about getting in fast, in any way that they can. Even if their pilots would need to share one vehicle, they'll still find a way to move on together. Speaking about communities, the Endriders, not driven by intrinsic utility, but by a collective need for speed. To them, racing is worship, and their prayers are the sounds of their engines and the explosions that follow. The Endriders come from a plane that was about to end, one where gas is in abundance, but water is definitely not. So to live there, they had to live fast, and an easy way to do that was by using the oil to ride vehicles. To emphasize the need for speed, the Endriders feel their cards work well with getting to max speed. That means dealing easy bits of damage on every one of your turns. The Thrill Seeker does it when it enters, for example, but also gains you life. Weird, you might say, but Thrill is the blood running through these people's veins. It also runs through their magic, as we can see with the Catalyzer, that becomes a mana dork at max speed. Believe it or not, Farfortune, the leader of the crew, was rather conservative with her people, because instead of joining one of the Gestalt wars over water sources while scorpion dragons swoop overhead, she chose to raid other planes in search for water. Yeah, dimension jumping is conservative in this case. She's always made sure that her crew was as safe as possible, even though some might lose their lives due to voluntary accidents. And yeah, Fortune encourages dangerous living by empowering the pings her team deals with +1 damage, but it's still their life and their choice. So sure, Fortune wouldn't really avoid the wreck, she'd drive straight through it, but she always made sure that the crew would survive. Her end goal is to return to Gestalt with enough water to take over their world. That's nice. For now, compared to the fuel wars on Gestalt, this Grand Prix is a thrilling vacation that grants their creatures indestructible after all that they have been through. And Death Touch for good measure, because you might as well take a rival with you. And again, the Gestalt warriors were never meant to be safe. They were meant to drive their motorcycles through massive vehicles, because they just couldn't wait to become an accident. But as long as your enemies were even more in danger, you would still win the race. So what does your safety matter in that case? What if a harpoon would make you crash into them? If your car has better armor than theirs, there's no harm. And as long as you have the claw to take them out, you are at no risk at all. Plus, their homeworld was never safe to begin with. Scorpion dragons and vampires that would feed on oil filled their lands. If all you could do for fun was ride around on motorcycles and vampires would keep coming for your bikes, you'd prefer to move elsewhere too. The Speedbrood are mysterious on purpose. They are explained to be from somewhere for some reason, but we can't translate what they're saying. Even though we do sometimes read what they're saying in flavor text, and this land says that they just never put their motives into words, but they do say that velocity is their way of life. Well, let's see what mysteries we can glean into anyways. For one, becoming speed itself is rather literal. Because to the Speedbrood, becoming a vehicle is the highest honor. The Speedbrood form a symbiotic relationship with their vehicles and can become one through many extensive rituals, but only after they have earned the right to become one. Achik, for example, could become a vehicle once they win the race or rank properly in it. They're a Radian, which is a term for the faster members of a brood that goes into the unknown as if driven by fate. Achik also shows the mechanics of the Speedbrood, because like a true Golgari, they let nothing go to waste. Or actually, they know that everything goes to waste and they take advantage of that fact. That's why Achik gets stronger from every insect that dies around them, and they make insect out of every creature or artifact that died before. The Speedbrood views every natural process as necessary, like the process of molting, which is a good thing because whatever you turn into will be good for the brood. So shed your exoskeletons and turn them into something greater, because it's like a sort of a birthday, at least to the brood. The moment you shed your mold or your molt is the moment you get to age into a new being, just like your birthday essentially. The Speedbrood have magical silken webs that they can use for magical weapons like bows and arrows, or spiky armor that allows for protection and enhanced strength. As their vehicles are practically alive, the Speedbrood can often enhance their vehicles in the same manner. The Speedbrood might want to be speed, but their real strategy is all about keeping the competition slow. Either by targeting whoever is in front with their webby magic, or by targeting their vehicles, which to the Speedbrood must be the same thing. I wonder how they view vehicles that aren't alive. Other than that, the Speedbrood like to sing, brew tea and trade textile. And apparently, according to the story, they like to talk. But they also can talk. So that's the mystery here. The Keelhaulers are an actual crew of pirates. Pirate sharks even, combined with land-loving fishfolk. The Keelhaulers, hear me out here, are basically dogs. Because they have domesticated themselves to use their prey drive in their races. Once they came to a Vishkar, or as they call it, a Fishkar, the Aether flowed into their bodies and activated their adventurous side and need for power, speed and glory. As you see here, the Keelhaulers drive boats. And this guy is the captain of the main crew. He's the harpooner of the main ship, and while he shoots down whoever he points at, he also just has a really cool hunched back and a really cool cape that has been made around his massive fin. The main mechanic for the Keelhaulers is to discard cards. The captain uses those discards to grant power to target creature and to enable you to draw when it deals common damage to a player. Sort of like plundering. At first I didn't really understand why discarding helped them flavorfully. It just seems like all their discard spells shoot magic beams. Why would that be about discarding? But this magnificent man is the answer. Fire the cannon mates, fire it quick. The sea is full of chum and we want our pick. Chum is the small fish you got up to attract bigger fish. So the Keelhaulers discard meat to get the bigger fish and then shoot them. So the shooting is really aside from the discarding. The Keelhaulers are also all about speed like any team. Not top speed but acceleration this time. Because of their simple vehicles, they'll get up to speed really quickly. They need this because they keep stopping to plunder other crews along their journey and then they need to start up again. And that could be another flavor reason. The Keelhaulers sacrifice speed to gain loot. That's why they discard cards, which could be translated to sacrificing speed for loot. That might be why you see them shooting stuff whenever you see one of their discard spells. And honestly, I really feel like the Keelhaulers aren't really here to race. They're here to loot, to steal vehicles, and that they must have already passed, and to fly around looking for whatever there is to steal. Because why else would pirates join a race? Well, one reason is because control lost is adventure gained. Never lose an adventure because it's better for your position. Just give up control, don't focus on the race, and instead focus on whatever you want to do. Speaking about not really being here for the race, the Alacrian's Quickbeasts are the Selesnya crew, and of course they're here to make friends along the way. They don't just want to win, they want to work together with the other teams so that they can find allies to fight against whatever threats arise in the multiverse. So they're really not here about the race. And the most important thing to know about Alacrian is this little guy, the district mascot, because Alacrian is a city where every district has a mascot or a soul. That soul is a great beast linked to a human counterpart. And do you know why this little guy is so great? Well, because he keeps getting better for every time he prances around with this little human. And the Alacrians know this. They say that you need to exercise kindness, for nothing remains small forever. But not all souls are cute. Lagarin is one of the Quickbeasts captains. It starts small like the doggo and grows itself or other mounts and vehicles whenever it attacks with its rider. It strengthens others, and that's definitely an Alacrian value. On Alacrian, Lagarin was chosen to fly for the Quickbeasts, but its rider was killed in training. That's why it now so fervently and vigilantly protects its current rider with hexproof and indestructible. Or it creates a new pilot apparently, because probably they were saved, but I think it's funny that Lagarin might not notice a change of pilots. Lagarin's current rider is Caradora, who's ready to protect her beast when she enters or jumps off her mount in the art, there will be a mount or vehicle to catch her. She also works perfectly with Lagarin to increase the amount of counters put on creatures and vehicles. And mounts because they're creatures. She doesn't have a protect ability though, more of a jump ability. You might wonder about how the Quickbeasts can keep up with vehicles, and they really don't too much, but the beasts do feed on Aether, which enables them to create lightning shields and should make them faster in some way. But like the Keelhaulers, the Quickbeasts weren't here to be fast. They're here to make friends, and they try to use that power of friendship to stay in the game long enough to make new friends for the years to come. What if you're a team without friends, like Winter Speed Demons, who were forced to race or die horrifically at home on Duskmorn? Velgavoth probably wanted the Planeswalker spark so that he could influence the planes around him better, but apparently fear isn't always the best motivation in an adrenaline match. Winter did get the upgrade of being on fire, so now whenever you touch him or an artifact that shares his curse, you will have to pay 2 life. Before we've seen creatures working well with artifacts, Winter just curses his vehicles or uses them to blow up opponents. Like his exhaust ability that grants -X power and toughness to each other non-artifact creature, where X is the number of artifacts you exile to the Shadow Realm. I wonder if this means that there are now haunted cars exiled to Duskmorn. Winter has also learned to haunt networks, so I guess the guy is kind of all powerful now that he has all the machines on Pravishkar under his control, right? Or is it just for show that he is holding ghost phones? Well, let's move to the other guy, the one behind him on the Cursed Rider card. The guy behind Winter is the Speed Demon. This guy is a classical demon creature, a big body with flying and trample and an ability that draws you cards and has you lose life. Only this time the amount of cards you draw is equal to your speed, hence the Speed Demon. It also helps you by tearing apart competitors. What's funny is that the man canonically already lived on Duskmorn, so we're left to wonder what his work was there. Did he actually already race? In a house? It's possible, but it's also funny. The Speed Demons love bumping people out of the way, but it gets more evil. The guys possess cars and people to get themselves ahead. Often their invisible riders take over the whole car, much like the symbiotic relationship the Speedbrood have. By the way, isn't it funny how 2 teams are named Speed and 1 is called Quick, and they're not even the fastest teams to get to full speed? I mean, the guys even need to first catch a shark for soul fuel. That must take some time. I feel like most of the Speed Demons were just here to create havoc. I mean, if Velgavoth needs to spread his influence, he doesn't need a Planeswalker spark. Maybe he can't leave Duskmorn, but his ghosts and Wickerfolk can. Apparently, the Witch of Wickerfolk can even form from the fears of the Avishkari people. So why not just stay here and slowly expand like he has been doing on Duskmorn? If anyone can teach us about not doing things slowly, it's the Goblin Rocketeers. They want nothing more than to push the speed limit up and see if their machines can go fastest first. Isn't this the most Gruul way to love artifacts, as things that can go really fast? These goblins are really religious. Their god is the boost god. Yeah, really. This god was locked up by a prison that could only be broken by breaking the speed limit. The only problem being that the same rival deity that locked him up also imposed a speed limit on the whole plane. So now the goblins are trying to break it elsewhere. The captain of the team is Redshift, who uses a massive rocket with really small wheels under it to race. He weirdly has vigilance. I mean, is he being careful about his surroundings perhaps? I don't think so, but anyways, he makes mana equal to his power. Very Gruul of him. He uses that mana to pay for his exhaust ability, and that's what the goblins are about. Not about quickly finishing the race, but about getting to use your rocket blaster machine and seeing where it takes you. In Redshift's case, you even get to dump all of your permanents from your hand onto the battlefield. Really saying, here you go, all of my fuel. Even a deck with Redshift would play out like this, because you'd need a bunch of ramp and then really big creatures. So you're really having only one game plan with this. The rocket air game plan is simple. Put a rocket on whatever you are driving or riding, even if the thing already is a massive dragon, just stick a rocket on your back and go even faster. And then don't care about what's in front of you, just go through it, because if you're fast enough you'll still have won. Boom Scholar and Boom Mobile show us how the Rocketeers do this mechanically. Yes, by going boom, but also by getting to the exhaust abilities as soon as possible. Where the Aether Rangers would want to benefit from the exhaust abilities themselves, when their Aether would give them power, the Rocketeers just want to see the explosives. By making them cheaper or by giving you mana just to use for abilities, for example. Dareddi has been stranded on Avishgard too, because he has lost his spark and he has been trying to teach his Goblin crew some new tricks, like casting Lightning Strike, so now whenever they point at something, they cast a Lightning Strike. Really wasn't the safety precaution Dareddi was hoping it would be. He's also been trying to help them with their cars by adding a bunch of cherry bombs to their supplies. Also should be very safe. This might also be why Dareddi becomes stronger from the artifacts around him. Mostly he has his signature ability of sacrificing an artifact to return one from the graveyard. Can be as big as you want. Dareddi will always find scrap to scrap with. And aside from using explosives, the Rocketeers have one strategy. Winging it in cases of extreme emergency and then using explosives to perhaps make their enemies crash and burn before they do. But predictably, the Rocketeers will be the first to fall into a trap, because they were the fastest to get there. What is it with these teams not caring about victory? The champions of Amonkhet care about more than victory, because they want to show the multiverse that their home is not a dead plane to be mourned, but a living world just beginning to awaken. I mean, it's a hopeful sentiment for sure, and I hope Amonkhet will still be able to be more than being dead, or being the winners of a race. I hope it will be all about their gods and their history and their interesting future. But today let's talk about the racers. One of which is the history of Amonkhet, Sahur, or I don't know. Because this team captain is a zombie revived with new wrappings to be a perfect big boy furry warrior of the past. This man gains the ability to resurrect his fellow army men once he hits max speed. Maybe because at that point they start to believe in him, or something like that. Or it's because there's enough dead comrades to revive after having to sacrifice a bunch of them to get to that max speed. What we learn from the past is that sacrifice can be necessary as long as it helps you win. And with Sahur of the glories past, other past warriors have risen, because they want to see Amonkhet's rebirth. The zombie cats and all the warriors running with the racers do want to see that. Almost as if the chariots are turned on by their fellow unliving. The zombies do get more daring. The Necro region turned from commanding respect to demanding it, because by going through death, the Amonkhetti have learned to appreciate life. And from that appreciation of life, Basri, tomorrow's champion, is the living counterpart of the glorious past. He's gone full cat dad too after losing his spark. Sand cats, of course. He can even be cycled to give cats hexproof and indestructible. In the story he uses sand to protect his team from dragonfire, so this is a flavor win here. Most telling for the story of this team is back on track, because not only did they persevere throughout the race to keep doing whatever they were doing whenever they stranded, but also did they find new hope after Eternals and Phyrexians overrunning their world with disaster after disaster, and they kept getting back on track. Now the living had allied with the dead, finally making space for exploration of what Amonkhet truly was outside of just Naktamun. So be ready for that. And of course, like the turtle and the hare, the champions persevered. They were the slowest, but won anyways. They kept going and got themselves a tutor on an uncommon card as a reward. If that isn't the prize, I don't know what is. Now the question for you, what will they do with that spark? We don't know, but I would like to thank you for watching. Please do subscribe, as only 3.5% of you are at this point in time. And with that, I wish you a wonderful day. Bye.